Chapter 135. Newbie goes out to sea. It was noon and the sun was scorching. Xu Qing walked on the streets and told himself that when he could help in the future, he had to help John San to repay the favor he owed him for refining the boat this time. Also, he would repay Xu Qing Peng for the ghost desires when the time was right. Although he hadn't seen the appearance of the magic boat after refining, Xu Qing felt that the spirit stones John San used to refine the magic boat must have far exceeded 200. After memorizing this matter, Xu Qing observed the crowd in the surroundings. He didn't see any difference from the past. It seemed that the death of the merfolk youth didn't cause any waves in the main city. It was the same for the homicide department. Of course, it was also possible that not many people knew about it right now. Xu Qing pondered as he walked toward the Sea Records Library in the city. The Sea Records Library was a place every disciple had to go to before they went out to sea for the first time. This was because the Sea Records Library stored extremely precious information. It was a comprehensive record of all sorts of strange things that countless Seven Blood-Eyes disciples had experienced when they went out to sea over the years, as well as countless information about sea beasts. Its value was immeasurable. Therefore, the books could not be copied. If someone wanted to check them, they could only personally go over and spend some fees to read the records. Other than that, if a disciple went out to sea and encountered a strange thing or a new sea beast, they could also report it to the Sea Records Library. If it was confirmed to be true, they would be rewarded handsomely. The more precious the information, the richer the reward. However, if there was no conclusive evidence and it was only one-sided information, the review period would usually be extremely long because it was impossible to determine if it was true or false. It wasn't impossible for the review period to last for hundreds of years. This also prevented the occurrence of disciples trying to fabricate stories to get rewards. Unproven information would not be registered in the library. The records that could be listed in the library were all true and had been confirmed many times. Xu Qing read the records very seriously. He knew that any piece of information here might save his life at a critical moment. He was also certain of the direction he should head to in the sea. The nautical chart he found in the merfolk youth storage bag was very comprehensive and detailed. After Xu Qing studied it, he decided that his ultimate goal for this trip to the sea was an island marked on the map. This island was behind an archipelago called the Western Reef. That place was filled with hidden reefs and was very dangerous, because it was the place where the nearby sea lizards shed their skin. It was known as Sea Lizard Island. Sea lizards were ferocious and rarely seen. They were social creatures and were mostly in the deep sea. They would only come out of sea when they shed their skin. Moreover, the skin they shed had to be obtained in an extremely short period of time for it to be of value. After a while, their spirituality would dissipate and they would be worthless. Hence, it was extremely difficult for outsiders to obtain it. Moreover, because its defense far surpassed that of similar materials, it was considered a high-tier material among the magic boat materials. It couldn't be compared to mid-tier and low-tier materials. Xu Qing had seen it in the 6th peak shot before. It was just the skin of a sea lizard at the 3rd level of check condensation, but it cost 30 spirit stones per piece. Moreover, the price would skyrocket along with the cultivation of the sea lizard. The 5th level check condensation sea lizard skin already cost 150 spirit stones. Xu Qing had even seen an 8th level check condensation sea lizard skin that was priced at 500 to 600 spirit stones. Such astonishing value caused this sea lizard island to attract the ferocious cultivators of the non-human races on the Forbidden Sea all year round. It was extremely dangerous. If one didn't have a certain level of strength, they would only have a slim chance of survival if they headed there. Xu Qing's target was this sea lizard island. Time slowly passed by as he flipped through the records, unknowingly. It was already dusk. Xu Qing finally remembered all the contents of the thick book. He closed his eyes and recalled before turning to leave. Everything is ready. I just need to wait for the magic boat. Walking on the streets at dusk, Xu Qing looked at the sea. The sound of waves rang out in his ears and his eyes revealed anticipation. Finally, when dusk was far away and the bright moon rose, Xu Qing arrived at the transportation department. The handymen who had been busy for the entire day were leaving in groups. When Xu Qing walked over, he saw John San squatting on the goods and smoking a pipe from afar. Under the dim light, John San's figure was a little blurry. Only the fatigue on his face was revealed through the smoke from the pipe that alternated between dense and thin. Xu Qing felt a little apologetic. Just as he was about to approach, his gaze swept across the surroundings. Among the servant disciples, who had become restrained because of his appearance, there was a familiar small and skinny figure. That figure was a girl. It was Li Zimai, who was in the same batch as him. She also saw Xu Qing. Although she was still reserved, a smile still appeared on her face. This smile was very sincere. Xu Qing smiled encouragingly. After watching her leave, he walked to Zhang San's side. "You know her?" Zhang San asked curiously. "I do. Her name is Li Zimai. She entered the sect in the same batch as me and has a very strong personality." Xu Qing glanced at Li Zimai's back and said softly. Zhang San nodded. "Not a bad girl. Since you know her, I'll take care of her later." "Thank you." Xu Qing looked at Zhang San and said solemnly. "It's a small thing, let's go. I'll bring you to see your magic boat." As Zhang San spoke, his eyes revealed spirit. He jumped down from the pile of goods and brought Xu Qing to the back. This time, they went to another large warehouse. As they walked in, a gigantic boat with an astonishing oar entered Xu Qing's vision, causing him to involuntarily stop in his tracks. Even though he was already mentally prepared and knew that the appearance of his boat would change drastically this time around, Xu Qing was still shocked by the magic boat in front of him. The giant crocodile head at the bow of the ship had changed. It was no longer slender, but much flatter. However, there was a black horn hidden in its forehead, as though it could pierce through everything once it popped out. This change caused the original ostentatiousness to be restrained. It looked more restrained, under which lied cruelty. The changes to the boat were even greater. It was no longer in the shape of a willow leaf that was more than 200 feet long. Instead, its length was reduced and width increased. Overall, it looked like a diamond-shaped turtle shell. Every plank of the boat was covered in scales and densely packed array patterns. For huge wheeled legs appeared on both sides. They seemed to be retractable and would allow the boat to move on the shore. There were also sharp thorns hidden on them. At the same time, the changes in the cabins weren't small either. It now looked like a two-story house. This allowed more space for array formations to be carved. Other than these, what was most eye-catching were the huge saber sails. There were a total of 8 of them, 4 in the front and 4 in the back. From afar, they looked like wings, but also like sharp blades. As for the bottom of the ship, there was a huge groove that seemed to be able to accommodate sea beasts. The entire magic boat looked like a giant beast in this warehouse. Its aura was heavy and filled with intimidation. What Xu Qing was a little dazed. The changes to the magic boat were so great that his mind was buzzing at this moment. Upon seeing Xu Qing's appearance, Zhang San's exhausted face revealed joy and pride as he calmly spoke. "Your previous magic boat was too badly refined, so I made a major modification for you this time." The main modifications are the bottom structure, shipboard structure, deck structure, bulkhead structure, bow and stern structure, the story building, and so on. I've replaced the keel for you. This way, the stability will be better. The structural adjustment can allow the strength and sturdiness to reach the extreme. Also, I've left some space for you to upgrade. Zhang San leapt onto the magic boat. In the black horn at the bow of the ship, I added the bone marrow of the devouring beast and pierced it into the body of the sea beast. It can devour the target's spirit energy and store it in the deck's formation. There are also these 4 legs. Each of them contains 3,600 shard fragments. If you encounter danger, you can shoot them out. I didn't touch the spirit gathering array, but I increased the groove for you. It can add 50 spirit stones at once. If there are extreme situations, this magic boat can be broken down and the excess parts can be turned into a fishing boat. Its speed will be at least twice as fast. And these sails, Zhang San pointed at the sails with a proud expression. I created them myself. Take a good look. As Zhang San spoke, he took out a spirit stone and placed it into the array formation under his feet. With a stomp of his foot, the array formation activated. The 8 blade-like sails instantly gathered together, forming a protective shell. The magic boat was like a huge alligator turtle that could attack and defend at the same time. In addition to the boat's own defense, these sails can make the boat even sturdier. When they are unfurled, they can be used as sharp blades with extraordinary lethality. The groove at the bottom of the boat can better lock on the dragon whale in the Forbidden Sea. Under special circumstances, you can control the dragon whale to soar and lift a magic boat, allowing it to take off for a short period. Xu Qing, this is a true level 7 boat. How is it? Are you satisfied? Johnson jumped off the magic boat and stood in front of Xu Qing with his hands behind his back. He then lifted his chin and calmly spoke. Waves surged in Xu Qing's heart. After a long time, he took a deep breath and took a few steps back. He then cupped his fists toward Johnson and bowed deeply. Thank you, senior brother John. This boat is very satisfying. When your magic boat is upgraded to a magic ship later, it'll help you design it according to your power source. A magic ship is a true weapon. Johnson spoke calmly with the demeanor of an expert. Xu Qing's attitude made him feel very comfortable, but the rush of fatigue still made him involuntarily yawn. When Xu Qing saw this, he respectfully bade farewell and placed the spirit stones at the side. He then kept the magic boat and left the transportation department. Only after he left did Johnson sigh with a dispirited expression. If lost money, I couldn't hold it in and actually refined it, so we'll have made a huge loss this time. I hope this kid will be promising in the future. Johnson endured the pain and picked up the spirit stones, shaking his head as he left the warehouse. Before he left, he thought of Xu Qing's fellow disciple from the same batch. He took out the voice transmission jade slip and made arrangements. Since I'm already investing, I might as well invest more. I have no choice. As Johnson sighed with emotion, Xu Qing returned to Port 79 and released his magic boat in its berth. As the water rumbled, he looked at the heavy giant object in front of him, and his heart stirred. He leapt onto it and studied it carefully. The night slowly passed. That night, Xu Qing thoroughly studied the interior and exterior of his magic boat. He also felt a high admiration for Johnson's refinement. When the sun rose and shone down, Xu Qing took a deep breath and stood at the bow of the boat. He looked at the sun in the distance and slowly narrowed his eyes. A long time later, he lifted his right hand and performed a series of hand seals. Set sail. Immediately, the magic boat rumbled. As the seawater in the surroundings churned, his level 7 magic boat slowly moved from its berth and turned its bow. Under the attention of the other magic boat disciples in the surroundings, it sailed in the direction of the harbor's gate. It was like a giant majestic beast was released from its cage. As for the handsome youth standing on the deck, his long hair fluttered in the sea breeze. His figure was tall and straight like a pine tree, and the sleeves of his gray Taoist robe fluttered in the wind, reflecting the morning sun in the sky, causing the sunlight on his body to pass through his hair and refract into dazzling colors.